Guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net, and I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. But I'm not alone on this abbreviated show this week. I'm joined by my compatriot, my best friend, my good buddy from the land of Kitchener, Ontario.
Alex, the producer.
Yes, so we are doing an abbreviated show this week, mostly for several factors. Number one, the news was kind of light this week, which actually kind of surprises me. One of the big things to note is I think the Screen Actors Guild has a strike vote today, so we'll see how that goes.
The Directors Guild apparently came to an agreement already as of like a day or two ago.
So
I didn't know. I don't think that they were they at strike?
They were in a strike position because
that's right. They were in a position, and the worry was that they were going to join the Writers Guild.
Yeah, so like I found out so much stuff about the strike that evidently there's an agreement every 3 years between the producers, the directors, and the writers, and the Screen Actors are going to join the writers against the producers, aka the studios. It's a whole mess. If you want to find out more information, there's tons of information available online.
Basically, 4 of the 5 big unions in media production. The 5th being the Teamsters, like the guys that
move the trucks,
move the trucks, close the roads, set up all the lighting, do all of the quote unquote grunt work, the stuff that really needs to get done to make your program.
Yeah, so that's happening. Other than that, though, it's been just a lot of weird, smaller stories. I know one story we were going to cover today before we decided to do an abbreviated show is the head of Twitter's safety and security resigned. And, I think the website is called twittersgoinggreat.com or something like that. And it covers all the tech news out of that. And basically, the fire continues to burn at Twitter HQ where nobody pays rent and you sleep in a non-safe apartment there when you work for Elon. So good times had by all.
You're basically crashing on a couch, getting paid money, sort of, and then, you never know if you're going to be woken up by a cattle prod.
Yeah, like it's pretty nutty. So I'm really glad I don't have any friends who work for Twitter anymore. I did have a few that worked there and they're like, yeah, that's not fun. Other than that, though, it's been just pretty light news week. And also, me and Alex were kind of talking. So next week begins the summer games season where we kind of kick into covering Ubisoft, Microsoft. Sony's already had their big event, but we'll cover a lot of the smaller indie shows and the PC gaming show and stuff like that. So next week will be another abbreviated show, but we're also going to have multiple prototypes as we start to wind things down for the summer. So the TWIG regular show may be in a different form for the next few weeks as we ramp up to our spring vacation.
Yeah, well, especially this coming week where it's like it coincides with like 6 gaming showcases that we're covering. And it's like I don't know if we have time for a regular show. We'll have something in its place, obviously, and we're getting other stuff ready. We'll talk about it when we come back to close out this show. But it's the time of year where in the past, I burnt myself out pretty darn hard covering during the pandemic. It was me watching everything and it was all spread out. At least here it's compressed into one weekend again or close to one weekend.
It's like a little less work, but it's more work at the same time.
Yeah, it's less stressful in the long run. It's more stressful for that one weekend where I'm like, hey, maybe we don't do a full regular show.
Yeah, like
if we're gonna have like close to 3 hours of prototypes to record at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. So other than that, we typically talk about what we've been doing this past week. And as you folks probably can imagine, I've been really busy. This was National Accessibility Week. So I wrote a couple articles for the Guelph Mercury Tribune, which is the newspaper that I freelance at. And I also wrote an article about a really cool girl who wrote something for Truth and Reconciliation Day. As it is the month of June now, this is National Indigenous History Month here in Canada. And this month means I'm tremendously frigging busy. I'm doing so many community events. Actually, one of the first times I'll be performing that's not Poetry Slam, I will be at a multicultural festival here in Guelph. I'm going to be performing with a person who's a drummer and a singer, and I'm going to be doing storytelling at the Children's Tent at the Guelph Multicultural Festival this coming weekend.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell the story. I'm gonna tell is the story of me, and I'm not gonna tell them it's me until the very end. So I'm gonna tell them about how I got my spirit name, how the fox found me, and just kind of dress it up like the bards of old from Dungeons and Dragons, and just kind of parlay that improvisational storytelling gift gab that I have. And then Peter and I are going to do some songs with some singing and drumming, and it should be a fairly fun time. So that's going to be Saturday from 11:30 to 12:30 at the Children's Tent here in Guelph. And then I'm actually speaking to a group of university students as of this recording tomorrow about some indigenous themes in video games. I'm very heavily going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII and Red 13, but also the theme of environmentalism, games like Extinction, games like Never Alone. I'm going to talk about a little bit about Assassin's Creed, and just, there are more heroes that are indigenous in video games other than Nightwolf and Chief Thunder or the kid from Wampum on the NES. So that'll be fairly...
T-Hawk.
And T-Hawk from Street Fighter. I completely forgot about him. So yeah, like there's going to be
like when I was a little kid, little white boy, the only like two representations I remember of like Native Americans or First Nations people was T-Hawk. I'm trying to think. It was probably T-Hawk
and from Mortal Kombat.
Well, I'm trying to think even maybe slightly before that, and like Tatanka from the WWF.
Okay.
Right? Like, because he would come out with like an Indian headdress, right?
That's true, yeah. And
so
Big
it's like
Chief George, yeah.
Yeah, like really, it was like wrestling stars and fighting game people were like the only representation you had that was not like a bad stereotype at the time.
But say, yeah, like even in popular media, I know in G.I. Joe, there was Spirit who had this eagle as his companion buddy. And it was cartoonishly Native American where he could like commune with the spirits and everything. Yeah. I'm like, that's a little goofy. I mean, well, sure, I'm glad he's there, but...
Yeah, the problem with that stuff was it wasn't like... overtly racist to be mean or anything. They were genuinely trying to make like, here's a cool hero, but they ended up going about it the wrong way by like using a stereotype to make the hero.
Oh yeah, and that was such a thing with like 1980s like stuff. Like, I mean, if you look at
everybody's represented, but like the only quote unquote Asian guy has to be a karate master with like the name Toshi. And it's like, yeah, but he's cool because he's on the team. It's like, but is he? Because the people that run the team are like the white dude, and like the sidekicks, the black guy, and then the tertiary characters are the Native American that has like war paint on, and like a Japanese guy, or any vague Asian person who happens to be a ninja.
Yeah, like especially with like stuff like say G1 Transformers, G.I. Joe, basically anything that came out of the Sunbow era of the Marvel productions in the 1980s. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Yes, but basically you're gonna have a fun time.
yeah, it should be fun. And then also I'm preparing for the Native Indigenous Poetry Slam that'll happen next weekend on the 17th, where I launch a book, which that'll be pretty cool. And yeah, it's just a really busy month. So like I was saying off the top of the show there, this month's going to look a little different in Twig. It's going to be a lot of info, a lot of fun info, but regular shows may change for the rest of the month just due to the nature of the way things are this month.
Now, do you have you been playing or watching anything recently?
Oh, okay. So playing, surprisingly not. Okay, no, that's not entirely true. I've been playing Pokemon Go only because I go outside every single day. in terms of my consoles, if you can believe it, Alex, I haven't turned on my PlayStation or my Xbox in like a week. That is weird for me.
Well, considering that you use it a lot for like streaming, even.
Yeah, like I was thinking, like I looked at my PlayStation controllers, like, oh, I should really play some Shadowrun Returns, or I should play some Persona 4 Gold, and oh wait, I don't have time. And I only turn on my Xbox Series X, and this is gonna break a lot of people's hearts. I only
Are
turn it
you
on to watch movies.
okay? I was gonna say, are you still doing your Far Cry 6 dailies? That's
No, I stopped doing that like a year ago, but I haven't even
oh,
played
thank
COD in a
God.
month. I haven't played COD since January.
I
That is weird for me,
I
right?
I haven't played COD since we played, which is what, like November.
Yeah, so it's been so long. What sucks because I really enjoy, the multiplayer, but I haven't really got into it.
I
Although
did they ever put zombies in this one?
not in this one, no.
Then I'm
Which,
not interested.
yeah, like I don't care for the Spec Ops mode as much. I mean, it can be fun, but I'd rather do it solo.
I still stand by that. Even though it was a launch title, the Black Ops game with that zombies mode that
Yeah.
we played like 300 or 400 hours in.
Oh
The
yeah, that was fun.
the one, what was it? Was it Epidemic? Or the whatever it was called. The one where you're going level by level, but you're clearing maps, like full maps together, and we could play it with friends. Like that could have been a game in itself, and they released it just as the zombies mode, and then the next two games didn't have it.
Yeah, Vanguard was Vanguard.
Well, Vanguard, like I'm sorry, not sorry, developers, that was a bad game.
Hmm.
Like that wasn't just like a bad COD game. That was a bad actual regular, like bad game in general.
Yeah.
And then Modern Warfare was actually really good as
Hmm.
far as like single player, but the multiplayer I felt was lacking.
The other thing I didn't play it this week, but I bought it because it was on sale. So the Switch had a sale for it's a game called Them's Fighting Herds, and it was the My Little Pony fighting game that was
Oh,
reskinned.
good Lord.
And it was only like $12, and I can't get over how good the artwork looks in it. And I found out there's like a season's pass for like $20. Like I'm gonna wait till that price drops. But I bought the base game for like $12. Oh, and I bought Blair the new Katamari game because she loves that.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I got those, and then other than that, yeah, it's just been a lot of Pokemon Go, meeting up with so many new people in the Guelph community, which is fantastic. I'm just having people say, "Hey, you're one of the guys who runs the Discord, or you help out with all the info," because I typically am right on top of it when it happens. So my
Well,
group that is 20 people on Wednesday nights has grown to like 30 or
well,
plus.
that's good.
Oh God, it's huge. And on calm days, all of us are walking through the park and it's great. And like if we need to share a battery pack, like, okay, you take my battery for 15, 20 minutes, then I'll plug in. And it's been a fairly fun time. There's like a group chat we have on Facebook. If we spot something and that somebody needs, like, hey, it's spawning here for the next hour, come drop in. Or I need help, come help me out here. It's been a friggin' blast, and it's just been a really fun time between me, Blair, in our little group. And then finally for me, I guess I should mention, I've been going to the Guelph Royals baseball team, and we haven't had a great streak yet. We're still losing, which is unfortunate. But it is such an experience, Alex, to go to live sports again. And I could have went to an Argos game because they were training up at the University of Guelph this past week, and they were playing against Ottawa, but I was playing Dungeons and Dragons that night. So
Oh,
there's priorities, I guess. But it's been a fairly fun week here, just super, super busy. So I promise I'll be back on more stuff. But that
well,
has been
good.
my life.
Well, for me, I finally had my long delayed reassessment for mobility services to, so I can actually, leave my building and actually go places, because I'm basically landlocked with them canceling one of the bus routes. That's one of the only ones that like services my area. So I'll know in the next week or so when it gets renewed, or if it, well, I'm not going to say if it's getting renewed, but for how long. And then I can finally start going back out to the movies and start visiting people and going to places, and maybe, getting outside, because it's been like a month and a half where I haven't really been able to go anywhere, which really kind of sucks. So in that meantime, it's helped me at least catch up on a lot of reviews and movies and stuff. And I spent the last week basically playing Mass Effect the trilogy again, which I mean ended up being a really good experience because here's what's crazy. I've never played a full Renegade playthrough. Like, have you done that before?
I have. I've done it with Femshep because she turns into this evil bitch. When I started
Okay.
playing a Renegade male Shep, I've never seen any of that dialogue performed by Mark.
Okay. So all of my okay, when I first played Mass Effect 1, I played male Shep, and I did like a slight Renegade playthrough, but that was like I didn't get the game. Like I played it on PC the first time, and the original PC version was terrible. There was like bug problems. It was like bloated and it was not unoptimized. So I just didn't play it. And I never played the first game until I played the second game, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And then I went back. So all of my playthroughs, for the most part, have been as Femshep because of how much praise she got for the second game. And it was almost always Paragon. Like, and then, so it's like I have a complete playthrough of, and I did a complete playthrough on Xbox when that went to Game Pass, or when it was part of the EA Game Passy thing or whatever it's called, about a year ago. And I did, and the same as like, or 7 or 8 months ago, I did a quick playthrough on there, basically mimicking the playthrough I did when I bought the PS4 version, or when I played the PS4 version. When it launched, was it 2021? We got that version here. So basically once a year I played it, which is funny because I don't usually do that. But then this time I was like, you know what? I do want, like, I sold my copy of it, and I was like, and then I noticed that it went on PlayStation Plus, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a playthrough from the beginning, and I'm going to do everything against what my soul tells me to do, and I'm going to play as Mark, and I'm going to play as a renegade and try to do only renegade things. The only good things I'm going to do are when I know I need to do them to keep people alive in the game. And it was like, in the first game, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't that rough. I was able to get through it all, and I was like, okay, this is pretty out there. Like it's a little more like mean and rough, but it's not like that crazy, but it's whatever. And then I carry forward into the second game, and that was a little harder because the dialogue was much more involved. There was a little more morality to everything, and I was able to go through. I did complete the entire game, like 100% of it. I made sure to do the IFF mission after I did everything else so that I don't accidentally miss something. And I did Legion's loyalty mission, did it all correct, everything. Everybody lived at the end, and I was basically a dick and completely filled my my renegade meter and did every choice evil. And then playing the third game, I always forget that when playing Mass Effect 3, how different it plays than 1 and 2. And it was good, but this is like the 5th or 4th time that I've played it where I can't do the final choice to spoiler, to make the elusive man kill himself.
Yeah, that one I almost always have to refer to a guide because to make a
you cannot do anything good or anything bad. You have to do a complete renegade or a complete paragon, and you will make choices that adversely affect the party where you don't get to keep people, because if you don't, it's not the 2 separate meters, it's 1 meter, and once it's full, if you do let's say you do 90% bad stuff and then 10% good stuff, well, that final choice requires 92% bad, and you can't fix it. Once it's filled, it's filled.
Yeah.
It's 1 meter, and it fills up with both. And if you don't hit it high enough, you're fucked. So I've only ever gotten him to do, to convince him that he's like, you can convince him that he's evil and make him kill himself, or you can convince him that he's that he's indoctrinated and he will do the same thing. I only ever got to do that once on I think it was my first or second playthrough of the game. And that was only on Paragon. So I wasn't able to do that. So that kind of pissed me off and made me mad because I'm like, they made it too hard to do it. Like,
Yeah, like I
and
think
they,
even
and
during
this,
my playthroughs, I had to use like a guide
oh,
the first time I did
and
it.
this is a second playthrough. Like I imported data, right, and it says I imported my character from the previous games, but it also said, oh, by the way, we've detected that you have a completed save of this game as well, so you get bonus stuff. It should be easier to do it, but it's not. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just watch that online if I want to see that reaction. But I did that playthrough, and playing the third game that way, it fucked me up. There are some choices in there that are very difficult. Like, I knew that Morden was going to be hard because uh, I've always done the good guy playthrough with Morden where he dies, but he dies a hero. And I had to do the full Renegade playthrough. I had to kill him.
Did you know there's a way he can live?
Yes, if you play it on, like, no, I went full Renegade though.
Oh, okay. Because I know
Like
there's a way to do it where you can where you can fool him, and he'll be like, you know what, you're not exactly wrong, and he'll fake his death or something. No,
yeah,
he'll sabotage the cure. He'll join you, and you get 15% war assets.
yeah, yeah. I didn't. I said I'm going full Renegade, so that meant not telling him about it, shooting him in the back, and you have to watch him crawl to the console while he's bleeding out, hoping that he can save the Krogan, and then he dies, and then you have to then spend time with Rex and Eve, and pretend that nothing is wrong, and be happy for them. Genophage is quote unquote cured, and then, like, near the end of the game, randomly when you're traveling to the Citadel, it'll be a random time. Rex shows up with proof that he found out that you fucked them, and you have to kill Rex in cold blood. And I was like, "Oh, that one hurt too." God, no. And there was a couple more, choices and stuff too. What did I do? I To be Renegade, you have to not let Ashley rejoin you, or also Renegade playthrough to me means you save Ashley because I hate that bitch.
Yeah, because she's like xenophobic and
And racist, and just overall just not and probably the weakest character of all of the like, not the voice acting, just the character itself.
Mhm.
So it's like, and then you have to let her go and like all this stuff. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. But it was hurting me, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I played the Paragon playthrough at one point. So then finally here, just to finish up what I'm saying is, I went and it was like, okay, maybe I'll play Andromeda to finish it up, because I have a playthrough on Xbox Game Pass where I did, Paragon, or not Paragon, there isn't really Paragon, but I did sort of what I always did, and I hate that no matter what I seem to do, I always ended up with PB, and I hated fucking PB. I think there's some weird logic in the game where by default you kind of get PB as the love interest if you don't do the right things with other people.
That I'm not sure, because I always like my love interest I chose was Suvi, and then I chose Cora.
Okay, so what I'm doing this time is I imported my character from my save from 2017, from the first review we ever did together.
Oh wow!
And I imported my character, and this time I'm playing it cold, like calculating. I'm not doing anything emotional. It's always like the like logical reason or the generic reason, except when talking to Vetra. I'm gonna totally go after the Turian girl. So I might actually have that playthrough. So I'm working my way through. It's the game is good, but it's rougher. It's the graphics are better. But anyway, that's sort of been what I'm going through. Like, that's getting me through until Final Fantasy comes out, and then it's like bye for a couple weeks.
But I was but say because you'll have that right when our summer vacation hits on.
Yeah, so I
July.
expect a week of probably me streaming it. But here's what I'm torn about. Like, do I stream it? But then if I stream it, I have to be playing it at 1080p on a portable screen, or do I plug it into, or do I hook everything up to the living room and just play it in 4K HDR on my own?
I play it in 4K.
See, as much as I want to do the streaming, it's like a lot of people are going to be streaming it, and I do want to do more streaming. I really do, but it's like I'm not going to do it if I'm only going to get like 3 people watching. Not on a game that I've been anticipating this long. I want to watch and play it in the best way possible, and the way my setup is, I'd have to be basically playing it at 1080p, and it's like I don't want to do that. So maybe we'll see. I might stream the first day, and if I get a bunch of people in, then I'll continue streaming that way, and if not, then I'll switch over to the big TV.
Yeah, for myself, when it's like streaming, I think I might fool around with some stuff later on this summer, because I know we can set up my PlayStation really easy to do it on Twitch.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, you don't have to do like capture box like me. If you're doing PlayStation, you can just do it that way, and you could have either your voice on there. You don't have to have your voice. You could be streaming, and you could do it, and you could be going to Twitch, and you could just do like Street Fighter, have fun, like have chill out sessions or do whatever. It doesn't have to be like you're
Super
playing
competitive.
Yeah, exactly. So there's fun things we can do. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so that's the long ass introduction. Basically, doing a full Mass Effect play, getting philosophical about it, and then almost crying.
But yeah, so all right, folks. So we're going to take a break here on This Week in Geek, and you're going to hear our reviews that have been ready to go. They are at the pass. They're ready to go out to tables. So we are going to make sure that you get to hear those, and we're going to come back and we're going to tell you what's coming up on the site this week, because we do have a number of different things recorded, and what our plans are for Summer Games Fest once again. So we'll get that out. So anyway, guys, without any further ado, here are the reviews that would have been served up hot this week, but trust me, they are hot, fresh, ready to go right for you here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back, guys, right after these special reviews.
Basically using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got for review from our friends over at Paramount Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the 4K Ultra HD release of the 80s classic movie Flashdance. Now, if you can believe it, this is one of those iconic 80s movies that I just kind of missed, but I have known about for literally decades, because, you know, there's that very famous scene where Jennifer Beals is in the leg warmers doing the song Maniac, and the foot thing, and, you know, the spinning around, very attractive woman. Cool. But I literally had zero clue what this movie was about. I just thought it was about a girl who wanted to become a dancer, and I'm not entirely off base with that. So this movie, if you don't know, it's about a young woman named Alex who dreams of being a ballerina or some kind of a dancer in high society, but she works a really blue-collar job. She is a welder, and I want to say Pittsburgh. Either way, she's in Pennsylvania, so, you know, high society to be sure. And she works at a cabaret show at a lower-end bar, and she has friends along the way who want to help her. She has a mentor who evidently used to be a ballerina. She has a boss who has some connections in that world. And it's her story of learning how to live her dreams, stand on her own, and ultimately take that big chance on herself to do something great and wonderful with her life. And at the time when this movie was released, a lot of critics didn't like it, but audiences loved it. I think it was one of the highest grossing movies the year that it came out. I want to say it came out like 83, so this may be the same year as Return of the Jedi, if I'm not sure. But movie has an absolutely slapping soundtrack, like phenomenal stuff. And I know it still streams pretty regularly on Spotify if you want to hear some of those tunes. And some of the music out of this is just, you will know it to hear it. That's just how good it is. Now, to talk about the 4K transfer for this, it looks fantastic. Sure, there's a little digital noise here and there, but I have a feeling that's just kind of the way it is on such an older piece of media. They weren't thinking, you know, hey, this will be blown up the 4K in 2023. But no, ultimately it looks fantastic. It's nice and rich. Sounds phenomenal, and I'm watching this on a 5.1 surround sound system in on a 55-inch 4K TV on my Xbox Series X. Fantastic stuff, and I was really impressed by the presentation of the disc. Now, there are two discs here. One has the movie in 4K. The other one is a Blu-ray, which I guess has archival special features. So there's like 3 of them. They last about 10 minutes a piece. There's a director spotlight, which I think the last time I saw was on a Michael Douglas movie I reviewed a couple of months ago. I think it was Fatal Attraction, I think it was. And there is sort of talking about the phenomena of Flashdance. There's another piece on the look of Flashdance, and then there's another one that's just a theatrical trailer. So overall, is Flashdance worth picking up? Well, if you've already seen the original movie and are a huge fan of it, then yeah, this is the best it's probably ever going to look. I don't know if they'll ever release this in like 8K or if that's ever going to be a thing. But it's definitely worth watching once. And like I said, I had a really good time with it, with this hyper stylized MTV dance life fulfillment dream story. And Jennifer Beals is so incredibly beautiful. And I found out, I think she was in the book of Boba Fett last year, so cool. But no, this is fairly neat, and I was very entertained by this movie. So if you want to go back to the era of sweaters that don't have collars and baggy clothes and, you know, randomly wearing a tuxedo that doesn't have any size to it, where you see a lot of side boob, that's a thing, then you should definitely check out Flashdance from Paramount Home Entertainment on 4K Ultra HD. Once again, I've been Mike the Birdman, and this review has been provided by our good friends at Paramount Home Entertainment.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
Our friends over at Sony Pictures sent a review Blu-ray of 65. That is the new sci-fi film that came out a couple months ago in theaters, starring Adam Driver. And it's sci-fi alien people coming to dinosaur planet sort of thing. You know, you can probably guess where the plot is going. It's not overly cryptic or anything, but I'm not going to spoil anything in that way. I'll just mention that it's a fairly predictable plot. If you can get past that, you can enjoy a pretty, entertaining sci-fi action romp that is nice that it's done on, it doesn't have to be this like multi-$100 million project that every sci-fi movie seems to have to be nowadays. This is sort of a throwback to like late 80s or mid to late 80s to like mid to late 90s, where you could have like a medium budget sci-fi film and still have it be an entertaining action romp. It's benefited from a lot of the shots taking place at nighttime using more natural lighting, or like this. It's not a lot of like overly bright saturated colors, which could really make it show its budget. It's shot very well. It's competent. The acting is great. As far as special effects are concerned, some parts of it a little hit and miss. I think that some of the CGI when they're showing like space stuff, especially at the beginning of the movie, it looks a little TV-ish, like a good TV show budget, but not like what you've come to expect from just some of the physics of how they show like space moving and stuff. It looked a little off, but that's just because I guess we've been sort of treated so well in the last decade or so when it comes to super realistic space physics. This again feels more akin to like a throwback 90s movie when it comes to how The physics seem to work in space. That being said, all of the physical props are super high end. They built some pretty fantastic sets, especially for parts that, aren't going to be in the whole movie, especially some of the stuff at the beginning. Very well shot. The audio is fantastic. You end up with a really bombastic, dynamic soundtrack. As far as video quality is concerned, it's one of the best looking Blu-rays. Like, I'm getting used to more and more seeing 4K as all the home video releases. Well, this is a standard Blu-ray, and you'd be almost hard pressed to tell, that this is not a 4K release. The only difference being, not HDR, it's not tone mapped that way, but it's one of the best looking 1080p presentations on a movie I've seen in a very long time. It's no surprise Sony has always really put out good visual quality pressings, but this is pristine. It's good enough that you could blow this up and show it on like a 200-foot screen. You would think it was like a digital cinema package and not necessarily a Blu-ray. As far as special features are concerned, there's a few in there. There's some deleted scenes, just shy of I think 8 or 9 minutes or so, which doesn't take away, like, you can see why some of it was cut, but you could have included them in. Like, it's not like it's throwaway stuff. It's actually interesting. There is some background information on the filmmakers in some. I think it's a feature called Set in Stone, and it's sort of a featurette on how they made some of the background stuff, as well as creating the world. There is a brief 3-minute documentary on trying to make how the Earth would look 65 million years ago. And there's some previews, which is something that you don't see as often anymore for Sony titles, like back in the day when you pop in a VHS and it has like coming soon to home video, that sort of stuff. So it's not like a ton of features, but it's nice to see that, because a lot of times now I notice companies are just making very, very bare bones releases, but there's enough on here to keep you wanting to look at the features. The special features will run you about a half hour, maybe 35-40 minutes of extra stuff to check out. And I can see you popping this movie on, every once in a while, making it a double feature with other, sci-fi action films of its ilk. I do recommend picking it up if you're a big fan of sci-fi, especially sci-fi action or well, it's not really time travel, but, movies taking place in a different time period, if that makes any sense. But if you're on the fence about it, it's only retailing about $22 or so, depending on if you get it on Amazon in Canada or Amazon in the States or Walmart. At that price, I'd say it's worth it. It's a reasonably priced Blu-ray, fun genre picture. I hope that more studios do these like AA budget, blockbusters that don't have to break the bank to make them. They can be smaller scale. They can still have good action, good special effects, and a good atmosphere. I was actually surprised by this because I know it didn't do fantastic in theaters, and some of the critics were off on it. I don't know why they didn't really like it, because I enjoyed the picture, and I think if you do like, sci-fi movies, dinosaurs, you're probably going to have a good time.
Of all the threats from both your past and future, you've never faced anything like this. Let them come.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to take a look at something we got for review involving the Transformers Rise of the Beasts movie that'll be coming out later on this year. We are looking at Transformers Studio Series 99 Rise of the Beasts Voyager class Battletrap. This is one of the new bad guys for the Transformers movies, and this is in the Voyager class scale, which means he's a big of a beefier boy, but that's okay. This is actually an officially licensed vehicle. This is a GMC tow truck, which is actually pretty kind of cool, I thought, actually. So this figure, like I said, he's one of the Terrorcons. He works with Scourge and Nightbird, and they're going to be fighting the Maximals and the Autobots. I'm actually very, very excited for this movie. We've seen Air Razor in stores right now. I've seen Cheetor. I just saw Freezer the other day. The hype is starting to get real, folks, and I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to this movie when it comes out in June later on this year. I will definitely be there in line number one with my Auto brand tattoo on my left arm. Okay, so let's talk about this figure. So This is the Studio Series, so you are expecting a certain degree of quality from the sculpt. This one does not disappoint in any way, shape, or form, though I gotta say, it's pointy. What do I mean by that? Well, he's got these shoulder spikes, which mine kept popping off. I think I was just maybe a little rough during the transformation, which is a little more complex than what I'm used to. Like, I had to read the instructions a couple times, and then I had to watch somebody do it on YouTube to kind of get it down pat. But once you get him into vehicle mode, he looks so good. If I did have one complaint about this figure, is the towing assembly. He has this under kibble under his arms, which forms of the tow truck arms. I couldn't get mine to stay clasped as tight as I think it is in like certain kind of product samples I've seen online and in other reviewers. Mine just wouldn't stay clasped, so maybe I did a slight mistransformation somewhere, or maybe it's just my particular figure. But when he does snap together, he looks so good. The vehicle mode also looks incredible alongside other kind of Studio Series figures. So if you got like say Crosshairs or Hot Rod or any of the other Bumblebee figures, he looks really, really sharp. His robot mode, the sculpt is incredibly detailed. Like, there's so many little nooks and crannies where they didn't have to put in like little details, but they did. His head sculpt looks so cool. Like, he looks like a legitimate, well, I don't know, a Terracon. He looks scary. He looks really, like, he's got this like wing crest on his face, and it's menacing. It's got that air of authority, as in you're going to die. In the trailer, he's shooting a rocket at RC. I think he's fighting Optimus Prime in the trailer as well. He's either fighting Prime or Primal, I'm not sure which, but it looks incredible. He comes with this mace thing, which you can fit over one of his hands. You can also attach it in vehicle mode to the end of his like towing assembly too, so if he were to swing around the road, you could like hit somebody with it. Another complaint that I do have about this figure is the transformation. It's a little complex, I found, but for a Voyager class figure, I guess I really wouldn't expect anything less, because you are spending a premium kind of price point, and because it's a movie style figure, they are a little bit more complex than say your 86 style figure. So like your cups, your cliff jumpers, your hot rods, that sort of thing. And I find the movie figures stand in a class of their own. But when it comes to the Rise of the Beast stuff, I am remarkably impressed with everything that I've seen so far. Like I said, hopefully I'll get a chance to look at Air Razor and Cheetor and Freezer and RC and the new Wheeljack, which I know people are really controversial over right now. So I will hopefully be looking at those in the coming months, because like I said, I think Hasbro's done a really fantastic job with the Studio Series stuff. So ultimately, can I recommend Rise of the Beast Voyager class Battletrap? Yeah, as like one of the premier bad guys from the trailer, he looks incredible. Will Scourge be able to stand up to the same type of detail? I certainly hope so, because he looks just as awesome. I can't wait to see Nightbird. I can't wait to get my hands on Mirage. This is a good year to be a Transformers fan. We've got the role-playing game from Renegade Game Studios. We got the deck-building game. We got so many good things cooking in the Transformers universe. And you know what? I gotta say, it's a great time to be a Transformers fan.
This can't be real. This can't be real. Oh, okay, it's real.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
Remember Zool? And I don't mean Zool from Ghostbusters. I mean Zool, the intergalactic ninja mascot that was in a couple platformers back in the 90s. And, you know, very, very European Amiga-style PC platformers. I know it came to a bunch of other platforms I'm trying to remember exactly every one. I'm going to pull it up right now, actually, as talk, because they have released Zool, like a remastered version, and that's the Zool Redimensioned. And I had a chance to play it on PlayStation 4. You can play it in like the original art style, or you can turn on like a enhanced remake version that makes it scaled better for widescreen with better color saturation, new graphics, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was available originally on the Acorn Archimedes, the Amiga, Atari ST, CD32, which CD32 is that weird platform. Amiga CD32 was not available in the States. They never actually got to launch it down there. But I actually remember seeing those consoles in Canada here. I think they were the only NTSC versions available because there was like, problems with the Amiga at the time. I think Commodore were shutting down, yada, yada, yada. But they went out to like regular electronics boutiques and electronic stores here. Like they were sold in stores, and you can get, maybe there was only like 1,000 of them. Who knows how many were actually available? But I do remember seeing them in stores. And I remember seeing Zool as one of the games that was advertised for it. It also came out on MS-DOS, Game Boy, Game Gear, Master System, Genesis, Super Nintendo. But I do remember distinctly it being sort of a PC, like a British PC release. Now, it's one of those platformers that you saw, like with a lot of European ones, a lot of floating things in the air. You got to jump and catch and collect, with lots of enemies flying around. Some wacky, crazy level designs, with, you have multiple levels for each world, 3 levels, then a boss fight, and then you move on to the next world. And not a whole ton of story, except that you're trying to win. There are interesting pathways that you have to take with it. Also, there are power-ups, like there is like invincibility, there's extra lives. Fighting enemies, they have the bosses have a fair amount of HP that you have to tick down. Interesting patterns for them. A couple of the bosses have some unique surprises when you beat them, or how to beat them changes. And there's stuff that was a little different for the time, that usually there weren't multiple boss phases in a lot of platformers, in the early 90s. Considering that this came out originally in 1992. But, it's overall, on its base game, like the original version, it's all right. But actually, this version that's been redone has been programmed by Sumo Digital Academy. They've put out a pretty good, reimagined, redimensioned, as they're calling it, version. Like I said, extra saturation on the colors, better, entirely new graphical update for widescreen and for modern consoles. You can toggle between. They've added multiplayer modes with like party modes, they call it. You can replay levels after you've beat them whenever you want. There's collectibles within each level. You can get 3 big collectibles in each level. There's like speed run, time trial type stuff. Can you beat it without getting hit? And you get little trophies and awards and stuff. As well, there's basically like cheat codes or things you can turn on. So if you're having trouble, you can turn on a mode that does things like you're invincible to get through the level. There's extra mode stuff that's like infinite jump, meaning that you can basically keep jumping and float through a level if you start to fall down too far. Lots of little boosts and things you can do with it. I played most of the game with the boosts off, and then if I got stuck, I turned them on and completed things. Turning on the boost turns off the ability to get trophies, which kind of sucks, but at the same time, it made the game, when they were on, it made the game so easy that, they don't want to give you a platinum trophy. But it gives you a good idea of how balanced and how thought through that they did with this game. I really enjoyed it. I think if you grew up in the 90s, you probably saw it, in North America, you probably saw it advertised. You probably didn't play it. So this might be the time to get into it. And if you're somebody who grew up in Europe where it was immensely more popular. They did do it justice. It's not just a remake. Or remastering. You can play it with the original color scheme and everything, and original rules and everything, or you can flip over to the modern style. And that's really the way to do these sorts of platformers. Bring them into the modern era, but at the same time retain the core of what made them popular, infamous, whatever you want to call it. I do think it's worth checking out. It didn't crash on me or anything. It seems very well coded, loads fast, and I had a pretty good time playing.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. And once again, guys, thank you for taking a listen to our abbreviated show this week, where we mostly focused on reviews because the news is weird and short this week, but that's okay. We still got plenty of reviews for you. So coming up on the site this week. So I just recorded with JT. We're rebooting Sunday Funnies into something a little bit different. And we very much took a cue from Kevin Smith's Fat Man Beyond, where we just, if we're going to talk about comics and nerdy stuff, we're going to be less complaining and more excited about stuff. As Kevin Smith put it, there's 1,000 cats who have podcasts out there where all they do is complain and bitch and moan. I'd rather hear about the people who really love what they're talking about. So me and JT got some really cool ideas for that. I'll just say one of my ideas involves a rebooted Dino Saucers, if you happen to know that cartoon. And then I know I just edited, it's been a little long in the weeds, but I just edited our USA Up All Night with me, Aaron Paulier, and Enrique Couto. That went up. Also, I don't think Alex posted it to the site, so but if you go to Enrique's podcast, Weekly Spookies, my story went up, and it's called File 137. Alex, if you want to link that in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll link that in our show notes here because there wasn't really a way to do it previously.
Yeah, so there's that. And then me and Alex were mostly preparing for Summer Games Fest this week because there's going to be, as we mentioned during the top of the show, so much to cover. And I'm invested this year, which is different than other years because I guess it's weird. The pandemic burned me out on gaming, but now that I'm all like, yay life, I'm more invested. Like now that I'm playing stuff that's a little more like kind of story driven.
Well, and things are finally starting to come out. Like when the pandemic hit, there were only 2 games that came right at the very beginning, which was like that we actually wanted to play. There was Persona 5 Royal and Final Fantasy Remake.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there just wasn't a lot,
and that was during those were literally during lockdown 1, right? So like after that, there wasn't really anything that you were interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe at the outside, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 HD, maybe.
And then that studio got shut down, and all you've had is like COD, one time a year.
Yeah, and even then, I'm like, eh.
And Halo outside of the single player campaign was so disappointing.
Yeah, like I know there was a Halo Championship weekend. I couldn't be bothered to even tune in to get the kind of Twitch drops. I haven't even seen the season 3 stuff for the Battle Pass, and I like the story. I like what they were continuing on, but I'm not waiting months for a 2-minute cutscene that doesn't really do much. And they're not doing DLC. They've already said that they're going to drop it. So that sucks. I've lost Halo. So whatever. Guess I'll find something else to play.
Probably Marathon whenever Bungie puts that out.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'll tell you, I'm not going back to friggin' Destiny. No way, no how.
And that's my biggest issue with live service games is they get boring and outstay their welcome. Like, I don't want to play a game that was made in 2018, a multiplayer game, in 2023.
Yeah,
I just don't. Like, multiplayer games have a shelf life of 1 to maybe 2 years. And beyond that, they get really boring and repetitive to me.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things, like, unless you have, like, a really good community to kind of play with, it's just not something that it's hard to make friends it's like it's hard to make friends and get a group that's consistent enough to play with. And if you can't coordinate, if your one buddy can't pop on, then you don't have anything, and it's just not a good time. And like I had people I used to play COD with, and I just don't have that anymore. I actually met a really nice fellow a few months ago who helped me unlock a gun, but I couldn't get together with him again to play just because our schedules just never kind of lined up. And I really feel bad that I kind of ditched him by accident. But yeah, like the only multiplayer games, Alex, I've honestly enjoyed were TMNT Reshelled, which was a pandemic game.
Yeah.
When you and I played locally, the Cowabunga collection and Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So not like hyper Halo, because like I only played Halo with you and Justin that one time. We played Deep Rock Galactic, but that's more of a hangout and chill thing.
Yeah, and that's something that we could probably jump back into again at some point. Those are pick up and play kind of games. Like we're never gonna be Fortnite people.
Yeah, no,
and it's not like it's like, oh, it's because you're old. It's not an old people thing. It's that might be part of it, but it's same with like Minecraft and that. It's just not our bag.
Yeah,
it's not anything that I unless I'm playing directly with my actual friends, doing party games or doing like Deep Rock and that sort of stuff. I have zero interest in playing only with randoms and only on games that have no story.
Like for me,
I will never play that ever.
Like I like competitive, like Halo. I like competitive COD, but the thing is, I don't have time. Like I'd rather, and this is gonna probably not sound weird to like anybody, but I'd rather spend cooperative time playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends on my Monday night every other week or my Thursday weekly game than I do anything else, just because it's a chance to just play something cooperatively and do something interesting, as opposed to, oh, cool, I just went 21-3 in COD or whatever.
You get more out of it intellectually and spiritually than you do just mindless shooter online forever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I'm not saying I'm the king of the castle, but I feel competent. I feel good in my skills, and it sucks because I love COD. I love Halo. Just I don't feel the drive to play those games anymore. I feel more.
We'll see what happens, right? Like, I think people are expecting Gears 6 to show up this weekend, but who knows?
We might see a trailer, maybe.
Like the big push is going to be for Starfield, and
it's going to have to do a lot to win me over. I'll tell you that.
I'm like, we're going to play it because it'll be Game Pass, but like, I can't get over how bad the eyes look. Like, I know normally you'd be like, that's a nitpick, Alex. It looks like I keep saying dead cow eyes, but it's like they have glass eyes. Like the reflection, it looks not even uncanny. It's like it looks wrong, like overtly wrong.
To me, I want it to look better than Fallout 4. And
it doesn't.
Yeah, like I'm not impressed with what I've seen. I mean, sure, Fallout 4 meets No Man's Sky. Okay, on the surface that seems neat, but
Bethesda,
I don't know.
You know what? Instead of giving me 100 fucking planets to explore,
give me like 30 that are good.
No, give me 8 that are really good. And then, if you have a few random like asteroids to look at or something, it doesn't sound like they have anything fleshed out. It's all randomized. I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be, there's gonna be nothing to this. Where's the story?
Yeah, like I have concerns, and I hope it doesn't suck.
And we'll find out Sunday because they're doing a 1-hour showcase on it.
I'm hoping we see more about that Transformers game that got announced last year, because I know, just because I hang in certain toy forums and certain websites, there's talk of what the new Transformers toys are going to look like coming out of the Gameverse, because now you're going to hear this review probably next week. Hasbro is doing gamer editions of the War for like Cybertron toys, so it stands to reason later on this year we'll get toys out of the new Transformers game probably closer to Christmas, if I remember that information right. So I'm interested to see what happens there, what the designs look like. I don't
There's a
know.
bunch of games like the rumors are that Fable's going to be shown.
Yeah.
I think Avowed, which is from Obsidian, like something from Obsidian. Like I am much more interested to see what Outer Worlds 2 is going to be versus Starfield. But anyway, that's topic for another time. We'll see what happens on this weekend. But like, there's a lot of exciting things happening.
I'm hoping we see a trailer for Cyberpunk 2077's DLC again.
Yeah, that was already supposed to be out, I thought.
If not, I think it was either this year or early next year. I hope we get some kind of an update.
And I know they canceled all other pieces of DLC to then, like, this was supposed to be like one of 2 or 3 expansions.
Yep.
And then what they did was they canceled all the others and then made this one 50% bigger.
Yeah, like Cyberpunk's a game I'm tempted to get again on PlayStation, just so I can play through it again and make different choices.
Dude,
because
when I got
the game's always like $10.
Yeah, when I got the review copy of it for PS5 when they did the new console versions, and it was finally had all the kinks worked out and it didn't crash on me anymore. It was good, and it does utilize the triggers and the haptics and all that. And I did a full playthrough at like 100% of it. I was able to see all of the missions and stuff that just didn't load when we were first playing it on Xbox. And I'm like, you know what? It's time for that expansion, because like, I don't know if people are willing to wait another year. And
Probably not.
And I don't know if people, if this doesn't come out this year, are people willing to wait like another 3 or 4 years for their next game?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting times for CD Projekt Red, that's for sure.
Yeah, so there's that. There's a lot of other stuff coming. We'll have discussions over the next several days. As far as programming goes, we should have I think a loose cannon coming up. Wednesday. We'll be putting it out because you finished editing it, right?
Yep. It is up in the folder right now.
All right, so we'll have a loose cannon. We'll have more. Well, I actually have to get the next several batches ready, but we have a few weeks more still ready to go of Earth versus Soup. We have. Isn't there some? Oh yeah, Sunday Funnies will be coming.
As soon as JT edits it, so probably fairly soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna say probably not this weekend because this weekend's all prototype stuff. It'll maybe be the next weekend or whatever comes after. We'll figure out. It's gonna be coming soon.
And Ken and I had a loose cannon that I think is edited already, and that's where we talked about weird video game adaptations. We talk about the Japanese Super Mario Brothers movie, and we talk about a Street Fighter 2 adaptation called Future Cops, which evidently is on Disney Plus over in China. Oh yeah, boy, is that a trip.
I saw clips of it you were posting. I thought you were having fever dreams.
I thought I was having a seizure.
But yes, well, we'll have that in the next little bit too. Plus, obviously, multi-days worth of prototype. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, prototype Summer Game Fest non-E3 2023 coverage. Part 1 we already have out. That was the Sony and Japanese indie showcase plus the Humble Games. This over the next several days, when they start airing, we're going to have one that covers the Summer Game Fest main show, as well as a lot of the smaller Day of the Devs, Devolver, the what's it called, the Accessibility Games showcase, as well as Future Games, and I think the Gorilla one. That'll be packaged together on one day. We're going to cover it probably on the weekend, and then we'll have one more show that we cover, and that's going to be the Xbox showcase, the PC games, and Ubisoft. And there isn't going to be necessarily like a big overarching discussion for all of it right away. We'll do that sometime midsummer whenever Nintendo decides to say, hey, we're going to join the fun and actually talk about something, because they haven't had a proper Nintendo Direct since like February or March.
Yeah, it has been a while, yeah.
They literally, like, they have Pikmin coming out this summer, which has had no trailers other than the reveal trailer. They're riding high off of Zelda, obviously, but like I think a 1-2 Switch mini games thing popped up on their website, and people are going insane, thinking like, why the hell do they think that's going to sell? Since the first game did so poorly as a launch title. But again, they're trying to fill the void. We'll figure out if they're going to have more things to show. And then there's supposed to be something from THQ Nordic at some point, and there was supposed to be something from Square Enix. There is going to be, I think somebody else is doing something later on this summer. But again, that stuff we'll probably do a wrap up at the end of the summer when Gamescom happens. And then I think September is Tokyo Game Show. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's been stuff that's held off for that, because they've started to make that showcase, their stuff more internationally focused. But we'll see. Fun little fact, one little final thing before we go. I was reading, did you know that Final Fantasy 16 is the first Final Fantasy made entirely for the Western audience in mind first?
I was unaware of this.
Yes, the game, the main plot points and like overarching story was written by the Japanese team, then handed to the English localization team that does all the English localization and flavor text and all the scripts and everything for the immensely huge like property of Final Fantasy 14. Mm-hmm. And they wrote all the dialogue, wrote all the other story, filled in everything, all written in English. All the lip syncing was done to English first. Then they retranslated what all the English people wrote back to Japanese to make the Japanese version. Oh. So this is the first time they've ever done that. They did with Final Fantasy 15. It was the first time they did a separate sync, where the I think it was actually 13 did that, where the mouths were resynced to English, and then they did like a scripting language that sort of helped that for 15. But this is the first time where, like, it's not just the lip sync and the dialogue, the movements of the characters are made to be more Western like you know how Japanese anime, like the characters move sometimes a little more exaggerated, or maybe there's like a hand motion or a gesture that's very Eastern, but not like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how each culture has their own different ways they move and the ways they express themselves with their hands or
body language, basically.
Body language. This game is the first time that Square has ever developed a game ever where it's all Western, like European inspired for all the movements. So cool. It's going to feel a little different than what we're used to with Final Fantasy. Not saying that they're going to do that forever. It's just this game they're doing that, and then we're probably going to see, you know, the traditional anime style stuff with Final Fantasy 7. So I was like, that's really cool. That was just a fun little fact I read up on. So I have high expectations for the script not sounding anime. Basically, now, like I just hope it's like when they say that they made it with Western people in mind, I hope it's not like friendship wins at all costs and everybody is 15 years old and anybody who's 30 is considered an old man. I hope they make it a little more Western in that like old man is like over 70.
Now, just before we go, I just got this email and I just noticed it. Evidently, if you live in a couple of different cities in the United States, you can watch Summer Game Fest for free in the theater if you go to a Cinemark theater. So if you live in Austin, Baltimore, Chicago, Cleveland, Akron, Colorado Springs, Dallas, Denver, Hartford, Houston, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Portland, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, San Francisco, Seattle, or Washington, you can go check those out. Or if you live in LA, you can go to the YouTube theater and you might be able to get in for free. So if you want to check that out, I think you can go to the Summer Games Fest website.
And they have they're selling tickets too for a live concert.
Yeah,
so that they're going to really show sometime. So I guess it's for is it the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards? I think. I think it's 10th anniversary. Is it already been 10 years?
I know, right?
Wow, suck it, Spike TV. But yeah, like I hope that gets broadcast at some point online too. But it looks like you can buy tickets to go there live, and it's going to be like a 2-hour concert. But yeah, so interesting stuff that Jeff's doing. So yeah, cool. That's pretty much it, man. I think.
Yeah, that is pretty much going to do it for us here at This Week in Geek this week. So we'll see you guys next week with a prototype. We'll have a review show, I'm sure, again, and just strap on your helmets, guys. It's going to get intense as we prepare to dive into summer games. We'll be here as always. So for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.